Hello, my name is Chloe Heisserer, and for my AMS project, I chose the topic Ovid in the 21st century. For this, I am comparing the story of Gone Girl, specifically the character Amy Dunne, to Ovid's portrayal of Medea. To start, I'll introduce Medea as Ovid presents her in Metamorphosis. I'm especially drawn to her story because Ovid devotes nearly an entire book to her. As shown in this image, she's mentioned in the synopsis alone 11 times. This is significant because Metamorphosis typically gives its characters only a few pages, if that. Medea's extended presence signals her importance not just as a mythical figure, but as a moral and emotional problem Ovid wants us to sit with. For this project, I'll be focusing mainly on the second half of her story, where her character becomes especially complex and powerful. Medea represents a unique archetype of woman in mythology. She is a powerful, intelligent woman who represents rage, betrayal, and revenge. She becomes a model for a vengeful woman in literature and media who is emotionally intense, morally gray, and terrifyingly powerful. Medea challenges the traditional role of woman, quiet, loyal, maternal. Her refusal for submission makes her powerful but dangerous. She doesn't reclaim power through healing or reconciliation, she weaponizes it. That makes her both threatening and magnetic. Her character attacks the system of patriarchal control, especially through her revenge of killing her children, her bold act of monstrosity, but also ultimate agency. Her story reflects Greek and Roman anxieties about women who step outside traditional roles, especially those who are clever, magical, or foreign. In this way, Medea becomes a mirror for ancient society's fear of female autonomy, especially when it's combined with intellect and emotional intensity. Medea shows up in many versions, but Ovid gives her a more emotional internal voice. Ovid humanizes Medea more than some of his predecessors. He gives her motives, feelings, and inner conflict. His Medea is still terrifying and very apparently perverse, but a little more relatable. This brings me to the mirrored timeline progressions I found in Medea's and Amy's respective stories. Though they exist in completely different worlds, one mythic and ancient, one modern and psychological, their emotional arcs follow similar beats, especially in the responses to betrayal. Infidelity is an essential part of both of these women's journeys. Not just as a betrayal of trust, it's a spark that ignites their transformations. Medea returns from her own adventure-filled journey only to find Jason, engaged to another woman. Her marriage of loyalty and servitude, including her help getting the Golden Fleece, ended with his betrayal. Amy discovers her husband, Nick, is having an affair with a younger woman. For her, it's not just about personal betrayal, but a rupture in the carefully constructed narrative of their perfect life. She feels erased, reduced to a passive, discarded wife, much like Medea. But instead of accepting that role, both women create their own scripts, violently and with precision. This brings us to their next step, escape. Medea does not take this betrayal light. Jason rejected his life with Medea, so she struck back. Medea severs her bond with Jason in the most brutal way possible, by killing their children. She weaponizes her motherhood itself. It's an ultimate act of violence, but also an ultimate authorship over her own story. Amy has an extensively calculated, malicious response. She crafts an extensive plan and narrative framing her husband for her own murder. This act is designed to punish Nick for his rejection of their marriage and connection, while allowing her to leave and reject it herself. These acts of escape lead each woman to a kind of temporary resolution, a safe haven of sorts, but that too begins to fracture under the weight of their choices. After these extravagantly crafted escapes, both these women find residence amongst another man's company. For Medea, she finds sanctuary with King Aegeus in Athens, where she is able to find comfortable power and influence of her own. Amy reaches out to an old, rich lover who agrees to help her based on a twisted story of her disappearance and keeps her in his own home. As the story goes, the temporary relief from these sanctuaries does not continue for either of these women. Medea's issue shows up with King Aegeus's long-lost son. He proposes an issue, because if he becomes the king's heir, her children won't. Amy's issue occurs when her oh-so-kind savior is no longer hosting her, but more so holding her. Both of these women begin to lose their autonomy again and adapt new plans. Medea quickly attempts to poison the king's son before the king can realize who is in his presence. This fails and she makes another escape, as always in dramatic fashion. Amy's new plan involves framing and killing her captor. Slashing his throat, she too escapes. This brings us to our closing acts. Despite the parallels in these two fine lady stories, they have significantly different endings. Medea is gone with the wind. Her disappearance from her king in Athens marks the end of her story, as she has no later appearances in Ovid's Metamorphoses. Going off the intent of the Medea story as a reflection of the Greeks' and Romans' fear of dangerous, disobedient women, it seems it ends like a folktale, as if it's something parents would use to warn children, don't do this or Medea will come get you. Amy, on the other hand, finds a more successful ending. Her framed story allows her to go back to her husband as if she is an abducted victim who fought her way back to freedom, back to him. She has painted the story nearly perfectly, and guess what? Her husband stays with her. Her thrilling schemes and manipulation brought life back into their marriage. She is the Amy who he knows and loves, maybe? More accurately, the Amy that makes him matter. I believe there to be great significance in the difference of endings. Medea and Amy both begin their story as the perfect, cool girls, as referenced in Amy's famous monologue, who are betrayed. They can be everything and more, but not enough to maintain their perfect lives. But with the alternate endings, I see Amy as the feminist reclamation of Medea's story. She got the guy, the life, and the happy ending, somewhat, in her own scary way. Although the story is obviously scary and she's insane, she's also insanely intelligent. Throughout all the twists of the stories, Amy is ultimately and fully the orchestrator of herself and her life, the picture of complete personal agency. That's all I have. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.